Are we live? Did it work?
I don't know. I think it's still thinking about it. There we go.
Anyway. Are we live? Did it work? I don't know. Guys, look. I'm gonna have to turn off that
we
sound.
don't want to have to.
I forgot.
Yeah.
I forgot.
Hey guys.
My bad.
Good morning. So you guys get to meet our new team members. Who's currently screaming because they want to continue their battle royale. This is Dinah. And this is Clover. Clover's much better behaved than Dinah is. We had to get a kitty because Monday was so lonely. Monday's right here. Hi, Puppers. Sitting directly behind my chair. And this is her kitty. And they love each other. Clover's still trying to figure it out. Yeah. The other day I picked up Dinah. I'm like, girl, why are you all wet? I realized Monday gave her a bath. So nice of her.
Like literally.
Sat there and licked the cat.
Yeah.
All right, want your kitty?
Here's your kitty. Hey, Alana. Hey, Angeli. All right.
Guys, like seriously, they're so cute. Hold on, I'm gonna grab this so you can see it. Oh, she walked away.
Dinah and Monday are like besties.
So cute.
Yeah. Was it the other day you like walked over and you're like, Monday, and Monday sits up and Dinah's like
under her chin.
Yeah.
Just chilling.
Just like hidden underneath.
So anyway, welcome to our Q&A for semester 4. We're going to go over some of the questions you guys have had leading through semester 4 so far, and talk a little bit about what we've got slated for semester 5 and kind of get some of your feedback. Where's the chat? Oh, there it is. It's so far away.
Oh yeah, my bad. There you go.
Love that it makes me clean.
And that's big enough for you to see.
Oh, now I can read it. Even better.
Hi, Carolyn. All right.
I thought you said we're so cute. I was like, thanks. She got the cat.
You're also.
You guys can't see Clover.
Well, if you move it, then everything moves. Oh, hi.
Wow, nice right down your shirt. I didn't know you had those.
That's it's the bra. Clover just chills in my lap.
Yep, she's a very nice kitty. Dinah is the instigator of all the things. She's currently, I think she's fighting with the floor, but she's sunbathing.
Oh, she can do both.
Yeah.
She multitasks.
Oh, it's her shadow. She's batting in her shadow.
Oh my god, that's so cute.
I wasn't talking about you. Good movie girl. Monday's trying to make an appearance. If you come over.
Here she is.
She said you have to come over here. And there's Monday.
Hi, Kenny.
All right. So yeah, we got kitties to keep Monday company and to keep Karen company. Karen needed a cat. So we got 2. Clover's just like. Okay. So let's get into this. We have a few questions that I wanted to go over. There's our questions that I accidentally printed on the wrong paper. That didn't work.
So we're doing this. There's a window right in front of us, and you really.
I promise. Bright. It's really thin and wood grain paper. It's really pretty.
It's the like if you guys follow us on Instagram, it's the one that we just posting a lot.
Yeah, a lot because we're printing 2 at a time. So, yeah, we've been getting a ridiculous amount of questions about printing. So much so that I was getting really irritated with it and decided to make a highlight reel on my Instagram because I was tired of answering the same questions over and over again. It wasn't even that people are asking questions about printing. It's that they're asking questions that I answer all the time. Oh, you guys get to see Monday do her dance. This is Monday saying, I want better food. Can I get a different option, please? This is just dog food. She'll prance back and forth and she'll paw. bark a few times. All you see is like her teeth.
Oh my god. Yeah, really.
No,
You can't see.
That's what's for breakfast. That's the only option. Eat your food. She gives up.
Sometimes this goes on for like
2 minutes.
oh wow.
Oh, she's not done yet. You can't see it, but she's like flinging her head around. Did she like her paw? Peppers, eat food. That's what's for dinner. Yes, that's your food. Attention seeking. Monday, honestly.
Alana says, "Diva dog. Maybe like a mother, like daughter."
Hey, I'm not that food picky. She's still inspecting it.
Anyway.
I'm just gonna put some olive oil on it so she eats it. Hey, knock it off.
Wait, she likes food better if there's olive oil on it?
Yes, because it changes.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute.
Eat your food.
So how's everyone doing? We have a couple questions that we got from students when we were planning this Q&A, but if you guys have other questions that you thought of right now or you want to ask or throughout the conversation, feel free to put it in the chat and we will get to those when we read them. Do you usually put something in it? Or do you usually put something in it?
No, I just stood there until she gave up.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't see you go for the thing.
She's still inspecting it.
Also, this is the new space.
Oh yes,
I don't know if you guys, I guess you seen it in the stories.
Seen a little bit of that.
But it's fun. We have the sunlight.
We were like mole people. When we first moved into this space, we both have windows in front of our desks. And we were like, I don't know what to do. The sunlight, it's so bright. I wore sunglasses. My eyes were killing me.
She really did.
I did. I had to. And we just sit here like this the whole time. Just can't see anything.
That's also why we're like slightly overexposed. Like there's nothing we can, unless we put another layer of curtains in front of the giant window in front of us. This is just how we're gonna look for now for live streams.
I mean,
like the dynamic range of this camera, not great.
I mean, it's not as green as it was.
Yeah, like somehow like the white balance is just slowly.
It adjusted to my hair instead.
Excellent.
Okay, so we were talking about printing. So you guys, if you have printing questions, check out the highlight reel, the stories highlight reel on the top of my Instagram. I've just been putting all of our printing conversation stories up there. You guys are not the ones that are guilty of this, just so you know. But I get the same questions every single day. What printer do you use? And what weight paper are you using? What paper type are you using? Do you print everything in-house? So those questions are all now answered in the highlight reel, so I can stop answering them in my inbox. Yay, me.
I mean, I think a lot of those people are just like new to the...
Yeah, they're super new.
Yeah, and they just don't...
I'll just direct them to the highlight reel. So now all that information is in one place. Instead of gleaning the information over a longer period of time, people can just immediately have their questions answered, which is what they want, is instant gratification.
Alana says, but at least you can have the bright lights of Color Park. That is totally a thing. Like we used to have to turn on one of our softbox lights and then direct it down towards the invitation and be like, hey, what do you think of this color? And be like, I can't come to you at your, like, it's like me printing. I can't come to your desk to show you unless I move the light by your desk.
Yeah.
But I'm already looking at it at the light of my desk. So I'm like, can you come over here?
Yeah, so we would have the big photo light set up strategically throughout the room. But one always lived right above Karen, so she just grabs it and pulls it down. So it flips down and she's sitting there looking at the paper.
The problem is, after a while, that meant that it got really loose.
Yes, and then it would just randomly fall.
And just startle everyone around, including me and whatever animal who decided to lie down.
I was across the room, so I usually got startled by her yelp.
Yeah.
As the lamp light collapsed on her head. But, aw, basement living.
But yeah, it's been really nice.
Yeah, it's super nice. She's eating just fine. She just had to get over the fact that she wasn't getting any apples in her breakfast or bananas or olive oil. Spoiled dog. Anyway, okay, so we have some questions that we want to talk about this time. Like Karen said, if you guys have questions in the meantime, go ahead and put them in the chat and we'll get to those as well. If any of the questions that we're talking about bring up further ideas or discussion, please put it in the chat and we will add those in. When you guys replay the video, the chat doesn't go along with it. So if you think it's weird that we're reading the chat out loud rather than just reading it to ourselves, that's why. It's so when you go back and watch the replay, you can know what's going on in the conversation. Okay, so the first question we had was, in a broad stroke, what do you do about mean things said on Instagram, mean or snarky things said on Instagram? So the situation was that there was a misspelling in an invitation that was produced, but it was in a different language. So the designer didn't catch it, the client didn't catch it, but someone on Instagram did catch it. And in a rather kind of snarky way, they're like, hey, by the way, there's a misspelling. A couple things we need to remember about Instagram or online communities, online presence in general, is that there is a degree of ambiguity to it because it's in type. It's difficult to tell what tone it was actually typed in. So it could be somebody saying, hey, by the way, there's a misspelling on your invitation. Or it could be, hey, moron, there's a misspelling in your invitation. Because it's kind of difficult to tell that tone, we do need to keep that in mind that as designers and as artists, we do tend to be sensitive to it. So something typed really innocuously and innocently could still come across as being kind of bitchy. Keep that in mind when you are reading things that people say on Instagram. The other thing about pesto is like upside down. This is pesto.
She tried to use that as consolation.
This is consolation cake. When we lost lasagna. The other thing you have to remember about online life is the degree of anonymity, that people are going to say things much harsher and ruder to each other than they ever would in person. So somebody who normally is a super nice person might say something snarky online because there is that anonymity to it. It's not somebody you actually know.
Welcome, Sarah.
Oh, hey, Sarah. Oh, yeah, she's looking for our Insta Live. So we don't do this on Insta Live because this is specifically for students only.
It's for you guys.
It's for you guys. So we actually will have one coming up soon that's going to be kind of an open platform one that we'll announce in a week or so. Anyhow, so right now we're talking about dealing with snarky comments and questions on Instagram. Generally, so in this situation where there was a misspelling on the invitation that's in a different language, like how do you proofread that? That's, it's the client's responsibility, and the client didn't catch it, but someone on Instagram did. That hurts when someone points that out. You feel stupid. It's a shock to your pride a little bit.
It's happened to us.
It's happened to us. Hey, by the way, spelled Saturday wrong. Yeah, you feel really dumb. And honestly, I think when that kind of stuff happens, the first step we need to do is take a pretty good look at ourselves and our own reaction and kind of take a self-evaluation about what exactly we are feeling and why we're feeling it. Is it, oh, someone was mean? Or is it that, that we're being sensitive about it? And we as artists need to remember that we are professionals and not just artists, and kind of take some of that emotion out of it, which pretty much applies to absolutely everything we do, is take some of the emotion out of it. So when someone's like, hey, by the way, there's a misspelling on your invitation, you need to look at it as a professional first and as an artist second. Removing that emotion from it will help not sting quite so much, because you have to be able to admit to yourself it's your pride that hurts. You feel stupid. Yeah, we've done it. The next thing is, if it really bothers you, or if it's negative to the point where you don't really want other people reading it, just delete the comment. People are weird about like unfriending people and deleting things on Instagram. You guys just delete it. If it bothers you, delete it. If you don't like somebody you're following, unfollow them. If someone constantly is making snarky comments, They might think it's sarcasm, but it comes across in a different light. Block them. You don't have to be friends with everybody. You don't have to be nice to everybody. You don't have to accept everybody online. If you don't like it, delete it. If it bothers you, delete it. If it makes you look bad to potential further future clients, delete the comment. It's okay to do that. I give you permission to just delete the stupid snarky comments. Again, if you have somebody that's kind of trolling you on a pretty consistent basis, block them.
Yeah. And I think like one of the things we talked about is like curating your feed in the first place. And so if you're curating the pictures, also like you can curate the information in the comments in it as well.
Absolutely.
Like, that's part of it as well.
Yeah, I've definitely deleted comments. If I get spammy comments, I delete them.
Imagine if someone went through and was like, "Oh, then boobs on all your like pictures."
That would take a long time to delete them all, and then I would block the person immediately. Yeah, there's definitely some comments that I delete every once in a while.
Idea.
It'll be like just a super redundant comment, the same comment on multiple posts, or the same comment repeated. I'll delete 2 of them if it's there 3 times. Sometimes that's just glitchy. But yeah,
people are like self-promoting. Like it's like it's like brands who like paid their social media person to just like go and comment on other people's posts, and they go, let's say like you have like a certain number of followers, so like this is a good person to like write a comment, and maybe someone else will see it and link back to my thing, and it's like that's not what my account is for. Delete. Like,
yeah, we don't function that way on Instagram. So like I like how Karen just put it. We curate our feed. Why wouldn't we curate everything else about Instagram? Curate who you follow, curate the comments you have, monitor all that stuff, because that's what we're using it for. We're using it for our business, and to curate our brand, what we stand for, our aesthetic, and that curation should go through everything we do on Instagram. That was Aurora's. I mean, she just said it. So Aurora says, "Thanks for the great answer, guys." So that was something that just happened to Aurora. Is while we're on the topic of proofreading, we had a question last week about who shoulders the liability for a mistake on an invitation. Is it us? No.
Yeah. And to be clear, we're saying like an invitation that's already been approved for final approval for print. Yeah. Like if it's a mistake during the process,
I've made that.
Like we can change that and like whatever. Like well
yeah, one of the first invitation suites I ever designed that was, oh gosh, I think I did 500. It was for a big Indian wedding, and there were like 10 different inserts. I had gotten in way over my head. I mean, I pretty much nailed it. It was awesome. It was mailed in a box. It was like the 3rd invitation I'd ever produced, and it got mailed in a box. It was awesome. But I had just started using Photoshop, and I hadn't gotten the whole layers thing down yet. I accidentally turned off one of the layers.
Oh no!
And it happened to be the layer that had the time on it. I printed 500 invitations without the ceremony time.
Oh no!
Yep, my bad. So I printed an additional card and sent it out after the invitations were sent out. So that was my bad. I had to correct it. Right. However, if it's something like what Aurora just went through, where it's in another language, and she can't proofread another language, and the event designer, the coordinator, her client, also didn't proof it, that's not our responsibility. It's not our responsibility when we do things like we assume the wedding's on Saturday. It's on Friday. And
guys, I write like multiple times on all our checklists and proofs now that it's Saturday, something, and I double check it.
Like, we've done it more than once.
We've
done Friday wedding
so many times.
Yeah, it's a Friday wedding. We're like Saturday, May 9th, because in our head, weddings are on Saturdays.
It's like, ooh,
yeah, we've done it for both Friday and Sunday weddings.
And then if they have like a welcome, like a party before it.
Yeah.
So like one of our suites right now has a party on Friday and Saturday. So like I double checked it again when I did that other card. I was like, is it?
It's Friday, right?
Is it?
Yeah. But again, even if we assume the wedding's on Saturday and the wedding's in fact on Sunday, because I think that's what Marlise's was.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still the client's responsibility to check that.
Yeah.
It's also in all of our verbiage.
Yeah, and it is like, I guess it's like our responsibility to like remind the clients that like, hey, remember to check the date and the time and all the details. Like I feel like we say it now like
we have a thing we always
times.
say.
Each time I send another proof, I'm like, remember, double check on like the details and blah 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 before
names,
doing
dates,
proof,
times, and all the words in between.
And it's like helpful to like specifically say names, dates, times, because sometimes people don't think to check like dates, for example. They just think that
I'm getting married on May 9th. Is that a Friday or a Saturday?
Yeah. And then with the other language thing, like when we were doing the Ketubah for
we almost screwed that one up.
I think like it was because I at the time I'd never worked in a different language or like a left right versus right left in Photoshop before, so like I didn't think to swap it. So when we just copy paste the text, it like flipped it
automatically.
Yeah, and it was lucky that it like visually looked different enough for like the last word or whatever it was that I was like, oh, that doesn't look like
that doesn't
look right.
Because it like the line ended here, but on the copy the line ended here. So we're like, I have no idea what we just did.
Yeah, and like
there was
kind of Googling to get it fixed, and in the end, what we ended up doing was like trying to make sure, and then like
we did figure out how to do it. But not for Marlise's, we did it for
Lindsay's. Yeah, and then I think we learned by Lindsay's to be like, hey, because they don't read it either, right? So we were like, whoever you are getting this text from, you have to double check it with like your rabbi or whatever it is.
Take this proof to your rabbi. Please have them double check it.
Yeah. And
because that's what happened with Marlise's.
Yeah.
Is they're like, by the way, backwards. And we sat there and we're like, oh.
Yeah. And so like it's a good thing that like someone caught it, but it's like I feel like it's not our responsibility to be able to read another language.
Yeah.
But it is our responsibility to make sure that they know that they have to get someone who can read that language checked and remind them over and over and over.
And again, and again, and again, and again. I feel like it's also our responsibility as designers to be able to eyeball stuff. So things like, it's a different language, but it's still shapes we recognize.
Yeah.
Are the shapes the same? Like when you're dealing with right-left versus left-right language, that's kind of how we ended up being able to check it letter for letter, word for word, was just, do the shapes look the same? Like what we were talking about yesterday with the scale and our pattern is, as designers, there's certain things that you get really good at doing, and eyeballing is one of them, or planning out your design. The design we're working on right now, the scale of the envelope pattern is different than the scale of the envelope liner, which is different from the scale of the overlay. And we kind of laughed at ourselves. We're like, we did that on purpose. We did not do that on purpose. That was like, oh, look, that looks really good. Good job, us. But then when I thought about it, I was like, no, that is good job, us. Like we do that naturally now because it's our job. So as our job, it's our job to be able to double check things like, Hebrew's written the other direction. Do these two things look the same?
Yeah.
But it's not our job to check if the A in your name is actually an E if you spell Stephanie funny, or if your fiance's name is Matthew spelled with one T instead of two. That's the client's job and responsibility to make sure that those things are correct. And it's our responsibility to make sure they know that. We cannot just assume that. So if there's a typo on something and your clients are always going to want someone to blame, and you're the natural scapegoat. But if you haven't told them 10 times to check name, dates, times, places, and all the words in between, you're going to feel responsible for that, and they are going to feel like you're responsible for it as well. So it is not your job to proofread and to take that responsibility, but it is your job to educate your client, and through your creative process, remind them 1,000,000 times to check and proofread everything, so that they are aware that the burden of responsibility falls on them. If you have not educated them and you've not informed them of that, it might as well be your fault. So it should be in the contract. It should be on your proof. Yeah. We do it all the time, so we should be really good at this. All right, here's the comments. Thank you for, I really should read these before I read them out loud. Thank you for mentioning all these great points, but honestly, these things because honestly, these things could be possibly happening to me. Why are my eyes almost up today? Yeah. It's like my eyes are like overexposed. I'm trying to read something.
It is legit super bright. Like I know we've mentioned this already, but it's like, in the mornings, because we face east too, so we have to like close the blinds
right
in the morning, and
yeah.
it's still kind of squinty.
Yeah,
But,
she said
yeah,
these things could possibly be happening to me sometime soon, in some type of way. I got some learning to do, but honestly, learn from this. It's easier than making a mistake on an invitation and going, "Ah, crap, what do I do now?" But yes, this is a great place to learn. It's also a great community to learn from. Everyone here has gotten to know each other really well, and I feel like because we've gotten to the point where we don't accept negativity, and I mean, it's not that we don't accept it. This community doesn't really have it, which I really like.
I don't have a problem with it.
This isn't a place to bitch and moan. This is a place to grow and to educate ourselves, and I like that platform a lot better. There's plenty of groups on Facebook, Stationary Collective, if you want to bitch and moan about things. So this is just not it. This is somewhere that we can all learn things from our mistakes, and we've made plenty of mistakes. If you were part of semester 1, you saw our bonus video of mistakes we've made and lessons we've learned. There's Dinah. Moo. She's Kev's mom. She's just hanging out. Where's Clover?
Over here? Yeah,
Oh yeah, she's on the paper.
Yeah, she was sleeping on my lap, and then she got like a little like
too
much touching, so she like
she
went down.
Okay, so anybody have any questions on proofing, how to present that to clients, how to safeguard yourself from feeling that responsibility?
Next door, I think.
Just drinking out of Bobby's bowl. We have another lasagna.
I guess we could give her her own bowl.
She has 2. She has 2 water bowls. And she's drinking out of the dog.
More.
She needs the water bowl. She's super cute. Okay. If you guys have any questions about proofing as we go on, go ahead and throw them in the comments. And
or not even like questions, if you have experiences to share, that'd
comments. Yeah, that'd be fine. So when you guys register for classes as new students, you're given a questionnaire, and that's a great place for us to see where you guys are coming from, your experience levels, how you found us, questions you have. And I found it very interesting that in all of these questionnaires, stationary was spelled incorrectly.
Not all of them.
Way too many times.
Maybe people are excellent at standing still.
Yes. They want to work and focus more on stationary.
Ash, why aren't you talking in the chat? She sent me a text. Alana says, I think it was because when we first started, I was like, did it work? So she was like,
why is it Ashley no longer?
Oh, it's Ashley no longer Smashly. It just doesn't, yeah, there it goes.
Oh my God, that's awesome. And she's not texting me.
Because you're doing the thing, presumably.
Why can't she get on?
Oh no, she can't chat because it says she has to make a channel, question mark. I think you just have to be signed into like a YouTube account.
Yeah, you should just have to be signed in.
Question mark. Oh well.
Anyway, okay. Georgia. Nice name. That's a pretty name. Georgia Katrina. Definitely have had this problem, and very true. Even if it isn't our fault, the finger tends to point in our direction. Yeah, people like to blame somebody. And again, a really great way of safeguarding against that is not just telling them once at the beginning of the process, because again, this is presumably the first time they've ever done this. They've never had to proofread something that is this epically important to their lives. So you're going to find that if you remind them once, that's not enough. Twice, still not getting there. 3 times, maybe 4 times better, 5 times good. Every proof you send, you have to remind them to proofread. And the more you remind them, the less likely they are to blame you for it. Marlise's was my favorite. Marlise was like, so don't kill me. We can't reprint them now, but it totally says the wrong date. And I did not catch it. And we felt like idiots because we didn't catch it either.
Yeah.
But I loved that our client came to us and was like, my bad.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Because like she understood, like obviously, yeah, like we still feel bad, but it's like, but she did approve it too.
Mm-hmm.
Like like, yes, we made the mistake in the first place. But she did read it. Alana says, put it in your contract. I think.
Oh, not just, yeah. Just not even just in your contract. Like,
yeah.
I guess I feel like putting in your contract is a given.
Yes, but it's worth mentioning.
Yeah, it is, right. We have some pretty new people here in the group as well. Yes, it absolutely has to be in your contract 100%. It should be an entire paragraph in your contract. We are not responsible. We will not cover reprinting. We will not cover the cost of any of those things once the proof has been approved. And then you review it with your client. And then your first proof, you talk about it again. Your second proof, you talk about it again. Your third proof, you talk about it again. Your last proof, you're like, hey, just so you know, if there's any mistakes here, it's your bad. Say it nicely, of course. Say something along the lines of, hey, we're ready to go to print. Once this final approval has been made, after you've double checked all of your named dates, places, and all the words in between, no more further changes can be made. So again, it's reiterating over and over and over again. Because again, this is the first time they've done it. And just like the first time any of us do anything, you're not going to retain all the information the first time around, but you retain it better the more it's repeated. All right, let me check out what Sierra's saying. Okay, give me 1 second, Sierra. Let me actually read this because it's long.
In the meantime, the kitties are sleeping. Aww.
Well, what about the artwork? Okay, first of all, working with somebody that is visually impaired, and by visually impaired, I mean they have a hard time envisioning something. Those are the most difficult clients to work with because Shayna.
Oh,
Shayna is this client. So
I can see that, yeah.
Her graphic designer and her, like, I won't design for her. Her graphic designer does it way cheaper than I would do it for, and she's my best friend. So her graphic designer will send her something. Her reaction is, I don't like it. I don't know what it is about it that I don't like, but I don't like it. And they'll go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So she has learned to do something new. She emails it to me and says, why
don't I like this?
Why do I not like this? And I say, because it's antiquated and it's ugly and you need a better font. And what's with the fade out? Like, what are we, 2003?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
There was a font one time on it that legit.
It was like flashbacks.
It was like the one that was like, it was like a script font, but the connections and it was somehow it was a really poorly
designed font. It was a free font from dafont.com that was super poorly designed. So the kerning was all jacked up. The flourishes didn't take into account additional letters following them. So the N did this, but then it had more letters.
I think the T was crossed twice somehow.
Yeah.
At one point.
It was a really poorly designed font.
It was very weird.
And
Shannon was like, I don't know, I don't like this. And it's like,
because the font is terrible.
I can't read it. No one can read this.
Illegible and so poorly designed. So yeah, designing with a client that has a hard time envisioning things is a very difficult client to work with. You can explain it in the sketching phase, but maybe, Sierra, what you need to be doing is including sample artwork or imagery of some kind with your proofing. So if you know that they're going to have trouble envisioning something, and I don't even think it needs to be from your own body of work because we can't cover every type of artwork every client's always going to want. With your sketch, though, you can say, we're going to do this type of floral here, this type of floral here with color palettes. I'm kind of curious to know, Sierra, what type of artwork you're presenting to them that they're having a difficulty with. Is it portrait work? Is it venue? Is it floral? Yes, Bia says maybe try coloring in Procreate to make them more understandable. I do it occasionally. I don't always do it because I don't like putting distinctive color palettes on my sketches because everything's done in watercolor and it's going to change anyway. By a little bit, give or take.
I think just we also, our clients tend to know like kind of like what they
want
from like your work. And because it's also like I think a lot of times our clients like send stuff and then you ask specifically like what is it that you like about this, what is it that you like about this, so that by the time
I'm
we
trying
get
to think of like our
we can
process
call
that
back
we do
to
so naturally.
What the pictures are.
So Sierra, when we're sketching stuff, that's not the first time we've been talking about design stuff. That's not the first time we've talked about color or placement or what's going to be on the invitation. We've already been talking about that quite a bit. I have the client send over to me examples of invitations or artwork or things that inspire them. We then go through about, I check out their Pinterest board. I look at their overall wedding design. I know what flowers they're using. I know where they're getting married. I know what time of year it is. So that, and when they send me examples of stationery with an E, I ask, what about it do you like? So if they send me this one, and this one, and I'm like, these could not be more different.
Yeah.
I say, what specifically do you like about these? Because sometimes it'll be, well, I like the font on this one. This is really close to our color palette, but I love this assembly. So if you don't ask those specific questions, it's going to be much more difficult to narrow down. Let me read Sierra's comment quick. Sometimes it's floral, sometimes it's just a layout. What's calligraphy, what's text? And they're like, I don't really know what I'm looking at. Or they say the sketch looks great, and then they get the proof, and they're like, meh. So I show calligraphy, and I show calligraphy and text two different ways in a sketch. For calligraphy, I'll do loopy stuff. Sometimes it'll be the client's name and just like ugly scripty.
Well, we actually had one of our clients recently, like she picked a calligraphy font from the samples, right? And then afterwards she was like, well, I kind of liked the loopy thing that you did on the sketch.
I was like, the ugly? And then for text, I just do lines so they can tell the difference where the text is going to fall and where the calligraphy is going to fall. If that's what you do and they're having a hard time in the layout with what's calligraphy and what's text, maybe it needs to be explained to them a little bit further, because I don't know, to me that's kind of a given. But again, this is the first time they're doing this, so need to go over more inspiration with them in the consultation. I think that's probably going to be your best bet, is knowing what exactly they're drawn to. Because if you have a body of work, which, in Sierra's case, I'm sure you guys are familiar with her work. If not, look it up. You've got a pretty decent sized body of work at this point. If they're looking at your body of work and they're like, meh, then they're probably not your ideal client anyway. If you're going through your initial consultation with them but haven't had a lot of discussion about design, your sketching process is going to be time consuming, repetitive, and then, when they get their artwork, they're going to be like, meh, I mean, it's not exactly what I had in mind. But it's our job as designers to narrow down and to figure out what they do have in mind. Because a lot of times clients have a very difficult time verbalizing that. Lindsay is one of my favorites. Lindsay, my bride Lindsay, she was the Laurel with blues and pinks. With the doggy. She has a Samoyed Romeo who is featured in a bunch of their pieces. She was somewhat difficult to work with because she could not narrow down what she was drawn to. So we looked at tons of imagery and different suites of mine that she liked, different suites of other people's that she liked. I pulled tons of pictures from the venue, and ultimately it came down to what I suggested. Like, I built up my level of professionalism and my expertise in the field and said, how about we do this, with a nice spin, basically, so I didn't let her say no. But this is a historic venue. I'd love to pull in elements from the venue using the color palette that you love so much between these pinks and blues. By the way, pink and blue look really awesome together in watercolor. Here's a little sample. I had done some practice work that week in pinks and blues to show her because I knew she was having a really hard time seeing it. But it was work I was just playing around with. So I didn't do artwork for her. I just painted a few leaves in the blush and blue that she liked. So I suggested, let's bring in these historical elements. I would love to tie in your doggy because she was so freaking obsessed with her dog. He's really
rightfully
cute.
so.
Rightfully so. He's super handsome. And by the way I phrased and the way I presented it, she was like, yes, that's exactly what I meant. I just didn't say it that way.
Yeah, and I think like spending the time to do that groundwork with her, like establishes that trust, so she feels heard and she feels like you understand now that like, because she couldn't express it, like you
figured it out.
Time to like kind of make her feel.
And then moving forward, it was really easy. Well, what do you think we should do for the menus? Oh, I think we should do this. And she's like, okay. But now she totally takes credit for it. She's like, my awesome invitations that I designed and that great font I picked out. I was like, the great font I told you to use. That one.
But she's awesome and she has a great dog, so we love her.
Yeah, she lives in Philly, so I see her a lot. Okay, Sierra, I kind of want to skip sketches and include one with artwork revisions and the design packages. That's stupid of me. I mean, I wouldn't do that because it's so much more time consuming. The point of the sketch is to speed things along and to communicate placement and like overall artistic flow with the client. So when you're trying to explain to a client, when we do artwork the way we do now, rather than just graphic work, every piece isn't exactly the same. You don't just have a monogram plunked on the top of every single piece you produce. The artwork moves from piece to piece, and it creates an overall artistic expression that is really difficult to communicate with a client. But when they see it sketched out, they can see, oh, okay, so the florals will be here in this piece, but it'll be a different floral that matches here, and then the background's different here. It's so much easier to communicate, and it's so much faster to communicate that way, that your time is your money. If you're doing 2 rounds of artwork, you have to get compensated for that. And the likelihood is you're going to show your client 2 things of artwork, and they're not going to be able to tell you the differences. They're also not going to be able to communicate with you what they like and what they don't like, what they're drawn to and what they're not drawn to. So I don't think 2 rounds of artwork would do it. I think you're looking at more like 3 or 4. So far, no one has asked for any changes to the sketch, only once they get the proofs. Well, it depends on what they're asking for changes in the proof too, or in the proof too. I mean, are they asking for color changes? Here's a better question. What are they asking to change? Is it color? Is it placement? Is it overall artwork?
Like the actual flowers themselves.
Yeah, is it, I don't like the way that rose looks. I don't like the way that horse's head is turning. I think that will always be my favorite. Oh. Freaking Cammy, that poor girl. Sad. The horse was so cute. I loved that suite. Is Cammy here? I don't think she, oh yeah, she is. Oh my God.
I don't know.
The horse's head is facing the wrong direction. Seriously, Cammy.
PTSD.
Oh, no. I'm telling you, it's like my favorite GIF of all time was the head turning back and forth. It just looks so unnatural. And that's a good example of a client being a little too particular about what she likes and doesn't like.
To be fair, like I don't think that'll be caught in a sketch. Yeah.
Actually, that might have gotten caught in the sketch.
If you had drawn, if you had drawn the horse like turn.
Yep, that would have gotten caught in the sketch. So Sierra, I want to know what they're changing. If they're changing layout, maybe your sketches need to have more layout detail. Maybe you need to take a little bit more time adding in handwriting that looks a little bit closer to calligraphy rather than my chicken scratch. Putting text blocks, like maybe doing some block lettering in there. Mostly it's when they are in the consult, they'll say, I really like classic and minimal, and have very simple invitation inspiration, and then they get the sketch, they approve it, and they don't like the proofs and want to add watercolor florals to everything. Okay, It sounds like you need to spend a little bit more time building the groundwork and the foundation before you ever get to a sketching phase. If they like classic and minimal, don't just show them classic and minimal, show them other options, because it might just be that they haven't really started looking at invitations yet. So if they love classic and minimal because that's all they've seen, of course that's what they're going to be drawn to. But once they start going through your work and going through your Instagram, they might find stuff in there. They're like, oh, we wish we had gone this direction. So it might be having a longer conversation with them. Define classic and minimal, because some people would define classic and minimal with having florals on it. Some people it's just calligraphy. Some people it's a monogram. So if they're pulling invitation inspiration, but you're also Pinterest stalking them and you're seeing everything else in their wedding doesn't necessarily match that, that's something you need to approach with them. And building that solid foundation of understanding their design is really going to be helpful for you. So if they're working with an event coordinator or an event designer, you need to talk to them. You need to Pinterest stalk them. You need to look up their website. You need to look up their venue and have all the information. So when you're presenting ideas to them, you can say, you know, you guys really have pulled a lot of classic and fairly minimal with lots of negative space invitations, but I'm looking at your venue and given your venue and your time of year, it might be a little bit more fun to throw in some more exciting, colorful florals based on the fact that you're not having a black tie wedding, or you know, however you can spin that for them so that they understand that you hear them, you've done your research, you know who they are as a couple, you hear their concerns and their needs, and you're taking it one step above and beyond and saying, these are the things you've given me, this is how much further I went, this is what I'm presenting to you. I think it's just a longer conversation before you ever get to the sketching round to begin with. Cami, yep, that was a matter of getting her reference photo after the sketch. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. Shouldn't have said another one from the photo she sent. Yes. So what happened with Cami was epic. It was epic. She painted the cutest horsey. Actually, the whole suite was absolutely gorgeous and really beautifully executed, regardless of which way the horse's head faced. But the bride sent her a reference photo of her horse, and she was like feeding the horse a carrot in the picture, was like, here's my horse, you know, don't paint me, obviously, because I'm just like standing there, but paint my horse. So she painted the horse, and the bride's like, oh, well, a horse naturally wouldn't be standing like that because I am and my carrot are not included in the picture. It looks really awkward. His head should be doing the exact same thing facing the other direction. And I'm like, how is that any more natural? It's just, you're just looking the other way. Whatevs. But yes, now I bet moving forward, Cami will never do that again. She will redo the sketch, send it over to the client. The client will bitch about it at that point before she's painted the horse.
And also, like, neither will we.
I know, because we're learning from you.
It's like that specific situation has not happened, but it might.
Side note, oh wait, this is Sierra again. The bride specifically said no to any of the florals or greenery in the initial consultation. Okay, so then it's your job to question her. So this is what happens though. This is the Pinterest world. Is you give her your sketch, she approves it. You give her the first proof, she gets it, and she's like, meh, I don't like it anymore. Well, what has she been doing in the meantime? She's been spiraling down the rabbit hole of Pinterest. So then it's our job to come back as designers and say, well, we can absolutely start over again. Because that's like, yep. That kind of tells them that, by the way, we're stepping back to the beginning. We can absolutely start over again. But let's go back over those initial design elements you had presented to me. You guys are getting married at this beautiful old historic venue. You wanted to keep things simple and minimal and elegant with that refined formality that fits really well with this very minimal look. The more watercolors we add into it, the more casual of a look we're going to be getting, and it gets away from that initial design that you guys had talked about, and the initial level of formality, or whatever it is that they're saying.
Yeah.
When you repeat it back to them, what they told you in the first place, that you repeated back to them then as well, it's reminding them that you are the designer. You don't have the Pinterest rabbit hole. You can stay a little bit more focused because you are an unbiased third party. And this does happen with us, I just don't let it happen.
Yeah. I mean, so like, I think you talk about this a little in Art of Saying No, but just like trying to like make it
their idea.
Yeah,
make it their idea. Remind them what they told you in the first place. And because they came to you in the first place and said, we want simple and minimal, you've gone through tons of pictures with them. Not just that, but then you've regurgitated it. You've said this back to them. You've talked about why they're choosing minimal, why they're choosing formal, how it fits in their venue, how it fits in their overall scheme, how it will tie into their day, how their guests will respond to it, how people will dress because of it. You've built up this idea of their design, and you've created this narrative. So when they're like, oh, we want to add all this shit over here that we saw on Pinterest, you bring this narrative back that you've curated and you've built as an expert and as the person that's in charge of their design work and their best interest. and you can present it back to them and say, this is what we initially talked about. Yes, we can add these things. Absolutely, we can go back and we can start over. However, does it meet your original goals? And at this point, because you guys have all taken the creative process course, you know that you're identifying their goals. They need something, you are providing what they need. They need a service, you are the provider. It is our job as a creative to answer a question, provide a service, and to service a goal. If their goals have changed, they need to talk to you about it, but you need to talk to them about it as well.
Yeah, and just kind of like make sure that their goals have actually changed, because like maybe they really did change their minds. And
yeah, sometimes it happens.
They was absolutely more
Marlies
happy
did.
with it.
I repainted all of Marlies' stuff.
Yeah, we did not know how to change colors in Photoshop then.
And then we learned on that project that we did not have to repaint it all.
Yeah, I think one of her flowers changed too, or something like that. Like it did change slightly, but like overall, yeah.
But again, we went through all these questions with her. We went through that initial narrative, and she's like, yes, that initial narrative does still work, and it's exactly what I need. But we changed the colors of the bridesmaid dresses.
Yeah, and
blue.
They've been seeing like those colors like everywhere else.
Oh yeah,
right?
that was the other thing. Yeah. Is she had been to a bunch of weddings and they had all used the same color palette. Yeah. And she was like,
yeah. So like there are like I think clients sometimes have like legit reasons for wanting to change our work, but like try questioning them to make sure that is something. Because sometimes they might think they want something else, you change it, and then afterwards they're like, oh, actually I like that first one better. Yeah. Like they don't know what they want.
They don't know what they want, and it's our job as designers to help them define that, and to help them define it in a way that doesn't confuse them, doesn't take a massive amount of time because we're on a timeline here, doesn't make you want to kill yourself as a designer. So it's all about like the art of saying no and how to curate that narrative to present to them so they think it's their idea. But it also builds that trust between you as a designer and them as a client where you hear them and they feel heard. And without those two elements, without them feeling heard and you building this narrative, they're not going to listen to anything you say. They're not going to trust or believe you when you say you think that's a bad idea. Goldie's calligraphy. I include 3 rounds, and if it's still not working, I give them the choice of starting over, letting me go, or moving forward, allowing them to take control of the next action, but make it clear what was done. I like that. I think it's a little harsh. I think there's probably a more graceful way of going about it. It also depends on your price point. Like that would never fly at my price point. We offer a luxury product. And when you're offering a luxury product, yes, you bend over backwards for the client and you give them what they want because we do want them to be happy and we do want them to love their invitations. But as somebody who's been in business for as long as we have, 10 years, it's our job to, again, build that narrative, answer those questions, define those goals, and to lead the design process. If we are not leading the design process, this is the stuff that happens and will continue to happen. Kind of no matter what you do. If you're not in charge of the design process, you are the one being told what to do and being dictated to. And that is a formula for some people. Some people like that. I can also tell you they will never be able to charge what we charge, for example. That's something that you're going to find a lot in Etsy shops that have a lower price point. The client is the one dictating the design process. And it happens a lot. And it's like, I can't imagine going back to that. It like gives me anxiety. When the client dictates the design process, you guys will be running around in circles and you will be chasing your tail, trying to make them happy, and you will never be able to. And then you end up with clients that are like marginally happy. But that's not what we work for. We work for the clients. We want to work with the clients that are amazingly happy and that just love us. And part of that is being the designer, not the babysitter, and taking charge of the design process and asking the questions that need to be asked up front, building that narrative, becoming the expert, and building that trust with the client is super important in order to ever get to a point where you can say to a client, no, that's a terrible idea. And they listen to you. You also learn how to spin that. That's a terrible idea. it doesn't reflect our initial goals, and using those key words over and over and over again with the client starts to resonate with them. So in your initial design process, if you're saying, what are your goals? Or if you ask a client what their goals are, they're not going to be able to tell you. So your goals are this, and you tell them their goals. Yes or no? Yes? Okay, perfect. We're on the same page. So to meet those goals, we're going to be doing this, this, and this. It meets the goals in these ways. You want to communicate formality and history with your invitations. Those are your goals. So in order to do that, we're going to use historically accurate paper imported from Spain. And then you have people that are like European. They're like, imported paper, that's ridiculous. But Americans, we love imported paper. We think it's really pretty. That has a beautiful deckled edge to it because historically that's how paper was created. It has that feeling of history, that rich undertone of nostalgia and the antebellum South and this beautiful plantation you're getting married in, and building that narrative. And they're like, yes, that's exactly what I want. I want all these things. I will pay you to give me all these things. So then when they shift their focus, you can bring it back by, again, repeating all those same things. Our initial goals were this, this, and this. This is how we are meeting it. This new idea you're bringing in, I love. I would love to create these for you. I mean, the style is right up my alley, but I don't know if it really fits in with our initial goals. I feel like adjusting to this direction is going to bring down some of that formality, and we're going to lose some of that history. And they're like, I don't want to lose the history. I want the history. I want the paper. And then you're like, I know. We'll stay with our initial idea. And they're like, okay. And I'm making this sound like I'm hyperbolizing this a little bit, but I'm not. That's exactly what happens. That's not what you want. This is what you want over here. So again, it is about the presentation and building that initial trust and building the narrative and the goals and identifying those with your client. Because they're not going to be able to tell you. You are going to have to extrapolate from all the things they tell you, from their Pinterest board, from their venue, from their style, and tell them what their goals are. I'm going to go back here to Georgia. How do you deal with potential clients whose inspiration and style she's going after is just not your style or somewhat outdated, like trendy via 2014 mason jars, knowing you most likely won't work well? You say no. You just say no. Part of working as an artist is curating. Like we talked about curating your Instagram. It's also curating your work. You will continue getting the work you're doing. And if you're not doing the work you want, you're not going to get the work you want. You need to be doing the work you want. It's like dressing for the job you want, not the job you have. You need to be doing the work of the work you want, not the work you've had. If it's super outdated and you've gone through a design conversation with her and you're like, oh, this is what you like via 2014. Have you seen this new trend? It's like this, but evolved. This is what it grew into. Yeah, we saw a ton of that a few years back. And now we've kind of taken this idea and we've grown it into this more amazing thing that I totally want to work on over here. Look, something shiny. If they go for that, that's a good way of like changing that design direction a little bit and updating it. If they're just super stuck on having their invitation mounted on shimmer paper, and stuck in a book with pockets, like the old school pocket folds, that's probably just not your ideal client, and that's fine to say no. I mean, that's like hardcore Etsy stuff. They can get that cheaper on Etsy, and then you don't have to deal with it. So yeah, it's okay to say no. Go back and watch the artist saying no. Which one did we talk about? Finding your style and taking the work you want, moving forward, like delete your old stuff, only show the work you want. We talked about that in the class. Let me think about that. Hold on, let me go back and look at George's comment. She had a hyper Pinterest happy bride that tried changing her whole design after approving the final proofs. Contract saved the day. So again, yeah, totally. Oh, that's Alfonsina. Sina. Oh, we need to email her. Don't we owe Sina an email? No? Just kidding. Oh, we did.
We will talk about this later.
We will converse about this later.
Yes.
Yeah, so Pinterest happy brides are everywhere. We get them too. But again, if you have built that narrative in the beginning, it's really easy to nip it in the bud. You know, I love that design too. That just doesn't meet your initial goals.
Apparently the planner warned her that she was this way from the beginning.
So it's not just you. Yeah, I would actually team up with the planner on that one and be like, look, this is what we're going to do. Here's our plan. This is her goal. These are her goals. This is how we're going to meet her goals. And along the way, sometimes you need to remind them to stay off Pinterest. And you have to do so rather forcefully, because people who are Pinterest happy are just freaking Pinterest happy. And we've done it. I mean, we've had a branding clients like that before that change and drive me crazy. So it's like, okay, here's our initial goals. Here's how we're going to meet those goals. By the way, the more stuff you throw at me, the less likely we are to ever meet those goals. And the less likely you are to ever be satisfied. You need to narrow down your design, and it might mean you got to stay off Pinterest. Sarah says, I love the spin. I'm like queen of spin over here. Let's see. Since I started implementing what you talked about, confidence, trust, strong process, presentation, I have heard more brides say, I trust you. Yay! Such a change from last year. That's exactly what we want to hear. Can we copy that? Can we copy that and put that on the website? We're looking for testimonials. Can we copy that?
I mean, yeah, if she's okay with it.
Let me know if you're okay with that. We need testimonials for the website.
Someone asked us and we were like, don't think we have anything.
Yeah, someone was like, do you guys have testimonials for the Stationer 101 course? And we were like, I'm about to ask for those. Let me get on that.
Okay, actually.
Yeah, where can we put that?
I'm just gonna copy paste it for now.
Okay, that works. All right, it was at the bottom. Your mouse is backwards.
I think I'm the
backwards.
One that Mac says is natural direction when you're choosing settings. Yours is the one that's backwards.
Also, my mouse and my laptop are backwards from each other.
Is that because I changed your laptop at one time?
Yes.
Like,
and I never changed it back. But now I've gotten really good at using both, so it only takes me like 3 seconds to acclimate. So nice. I complain for 3 seconds.
So really, I made you more adaptable.
You really did. Thanks. I'm ambidextrous with directions too. Yeah. Okay. So that was a whole bunch about proofing and that creative process. We do talk a lot about this in the creative process course. So if you guys haven't taken that, do so. Stationery is spelled with an E. We talked about that very briefly, but yes, it is with an E, not with an A, guys. Just so you know, on my very first website, I spelled stationery wrong.
We have a list of questions here.
Yes, I'm reading my list of questions.
Staring at.
So if you're wondering why you're staying at the top of my head. Okay. The biggest struggle we have is customers that reach out via Etsy mostly and then never respond after seeing pricing. We feel as though we price ourselves fairly for us and also for the market. We're not trying to undercut anybody, but we price ourselves for our time, especially because our time is limited since this is a side hustle, and we seem to get no follow-up, and sometimes it's very frustrating. This is something that we hear a lot, just ghosted after pricing. There's two things you need to keep in mind when it comes to presenting your pricing to somebody. A lot of times when someone reaches out for pricing, they are in the very, very early stages of wedding planning, and anybody who has gotten married knows this. When you guys get engaged, it's like the mad rush of excitement, and you reach out to anybody and everybody you can think of that you've ever seen on Instagram, that you find on Pinterest, and you request pricing from everybody. But that's not a real shopper. And when you're getting those inquiries, it's very difficult to tell what's a legitimate shopper versus somebody who's just excited and getting all the information they can all at once. During that initial onslaught of excitement, they also have no idea where pricing should be for anything. So these might
or
be
even
people,
what their own budget is.
Yeah, they don't even know what the budget is. They're like $500 for invitations. That's legitimate. That's like a lot. $4,500 later. So a lot of these initial inquiries are going to fall into that category of just the initial excitement of engagement. So if your response rate is really low, that's going to be part of it. It also depends on how you present yourself on your website. If you're on Etsy, you're going to be competing with people who are super cheap. So if your prices are on the higher side because you're pricing accordingly, you're going to have a really hard time competing with people on Etsy. If you haven't watched the pricing videos, please do so, because then you would know that I hate Etsy. It's horrible as far as community over competition goes. Everybody undercuts each other. It's a super, super saturated market, and it's very difficult to compete within. So if you're presenting pricing on Etsy that is anywhere above $1.50 for calligraphy for an envelope or an invitation suite, you're probably not going to be very successful in getting business from there, because that's kind of the average price. So yeah, if you're having a hard time getting people to respond back to you, you need to remove the emotions from the situation and understand that a lot of these inquiries are just window shopping, and just leave it at that. You should also probably present your pricing on your website more often. If you get these inquiries a lot, say our design minimum starts at X dollars, so that people below that budget just don't even bother reaching out. And that's not only acceptable to do, but actually preferred by most consumers. Most consumers don't want to have to go through an extra step to reach out to find pricing. Especially if they're window shopping, they don't know what they're shopping for. So if your website says we have design minimum of $1,500, anywhere below that, they're just not going to bother. If they have a budget of $300, you're not even going to have to waste your time talking to them, because that is what it is. It is wasting your time at that point if they're just window shopping. So put a design minimum on your website, and it doesn't have to be permanent. You can change it. You can say, the smallest order we take is 50 invitations, and the smallest budget we work with is $1,500. I really hope that's not the delivery day. Pardon me. Hello, this is Victoria.
For Alana's question, how long do we keep client boxes on shelves? I actually don't know.
Sometimes
it's like
a
year.
yet. Could you do me a favor? I'm on a conference call right now. Can you shoot me a text message with your info?
I don't know what that is.
Sure. It's Victoria at. Actually, you know what? Text me and I'll text you back. Let me know. Okay. I hate these chairs.
Yeah,
sorry.
And these floors.
And these floors are slanted. It's uphill going this way. Sorry about that. I was hoping that was the guy delivering my furniture. It wasn't. It was a dog walker. I put a flyer downstairs asking. Monday put a flyer downstairs asking if anybody knows who we're talking about. Anyway, okay, where were we? We talked a little about pricing on Etsy.
We're talking about Etsy.
That's,
Alana wants to know.
Oh, here we go. Totally off topic. I love those. How long do you keep client boxes on your shelves? Haha, we just did this.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, in this box.
I mean, so like for a while, like these suites that she's going to show you, they were on the shelves like uselessly, just taking up space. Oh, you can't see. So
well, I'm going to take them out. All right, so we keep all of our boxes on our shelves. But someone asked me about how we organize stuff too, so here we go. Here's a client box. Most of you guys have seen these. You totally cannot see that it says her name on it. I promise that it does. But all of our client stuff goes in these boxes. All of her custom tissue paper, her box filler, confetti we made for her, her custom postage, all goes in this box. Once the client's event is done, like done.
Mm-hmm. Not like done, like invites are done, but there's still reception pieces or whatever, like that's not done.
Yeah, like once it's done, all of her her heirloom pieces have been sent to her, all of her stamps have been sent to her.
She doesn't have thank you cards or anything like that.
Yeah, we are totally done with it. It then sits on the shelf until we run out of room.
It's very scientific.
Very scientific.
And or till we move studios.
Yeah, because this happened when we moved. We're like, we don't need all these boxes. So we pull out all the extras. We keep a few of each piece. So this is one client.
Yeah.
This is her name card, which you cannot see, has calligraphy on it in her name. They're like tired wrestling. And then we keep a few of each suite. Put it in a bag, drop it in a box.
And these are suites that we assembled like while we were like creating the whole thing. Like it's not like we assembled them after.
Oh no. Yes, these are just if there's extra pieces that are not assembled. There's a few in here, but I threw them away.
Yeah,
we filled an entire 2 trash bags.
A lot.
Yeah,
like a lot of paper.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, 18. There's about 25 in this box.
It's not the only box.
And there's 2 of these.
Yeah. So we actually cleared a ton of space just by getting rid of client boxes, which was really nice. And it was kind of fun for me because I hadn't seen like all of these. So
yeah, some were pre-Karen.
Yeah.
Ashley really cannot comment on here.
Why did you switch who you texted? I've been like keeping an eye on my phone for you.
Well, she uses Fetch for Indy. For dog walking. Thanks, Ash. Oh my gosh, she cracks me up. Joy, oh my God, I never want to hear again how you can get an invite on Etsy for $1.25. Can you match that? No. Honestly, people were charging $1.25 on Etsy. That's not even profitable. That like barely covers cost.
I mean, unless the quality is really like not.
I mean, even if you're buying, because they don't have wholesale. So if you're buying cardstock at Michael's or Paper Source, that's the cover. That's the cost of your cardstock in your envelope right there.
Yeah.
That doesn't include printing, assembly, or time or design. Okay. Anyway, Alana, I would think she would need a whole lot more shelves if she kept them all up there. Yeah. We did get an extra bookcase when we moved in here because we have room for it now. So our paper is not quite as squashed. There's also off topic. I love off topic. Do you ever design single invitation suites for a couple who are eloping and just want a keepsake invitation? I've had a few inquiries, but have been struggling pricing them. I do not. I will answer that inquiry. I say our design fee starts at $1,500. So if you would like one invitation, it's $1,500 minimum. And that usually is like, and no. Even the custom postage. Yes, all the custom postage stays with the invitation because typically we don't have a ton of extra. Because if we have to order postage in sheets of 20. If they have 130 on their list or 130 that they've ordered, that's 10 extra stamps. At some point, after we've shot the invitation, that's the other thing is we keep all the pieces to shoot for the website. After we've shot the invitation, sometimes I'll go back through and pull out custom postage when I need to mail something. So it like randomly has a palm tree on it. But generally, I keep all the custom postage with the invitation. So anytime I like revive them, pull them out for Instagram or pull out to shoot the suite for something.
She's playing with the cat, by the way.
Yes.
That's why she's not looking at you.
Oh, it's too low. She has socks. Clover's the cutest. She has a hole in one of her socks. She has like one gray toe. Yeah, so typically we don't end up with a ton of extra postage. So if each suite has 3 or 4 extra stamps, maybe someday I'll use them. I don't know.
Yeah. That's another like shooting it though. Also, like that's another reason to keep the box.
Yeah.
That we have all that.
Yeah. So when we go to shoot stuff, we shoot. Oh God, that one time we did like 25 at a time. Never doing that again.
Not advisable.
Don't do that.
Like even like I feel like my lower back was hurting from like bending over
for weeks bending over that stupid styling board. But yeah, so when we shoot them for the website, we just pull out the box, and the box has the ribbon, the stamps, extra wax seals, all the envelopes, lined envelopes with sample calligraphy. So I don't have to assemble anything. We have all the pieces we need to shoot. We don't have to go back and fill in any holes. That is the voice of experience talking.
It's also because it's like 3 projects later, you're not going to remember exactly the assembly that you did for this suite. So if you didn't already assemble it and keep everything together in a box, you would go back and you'd be like, what ribbon was that? What is this? How did I tie it? And like whatever else. Yeah, and it would just take so much more time then.
Yeah, it's more that it's time consumption. Like I do it because it just takes too much time. There are times where if I'm doing a suite that she did reception pieces but didn't do place cards, I'll mock up some place cards as I'm printing stuff, so I have them done in her box. So when I go to shoot it later, I don't have to create stuff. I don't sit down and go, oh, I wish I had menus or place cards or table numbers. I just did it when I was printing stuff off. So I just chuck it in her box and it's good to go to shoot. Do you want it done cheap, fast, or right? That is absolutely correct. You get to choose two. Don't get to choose. Well, actually, it's more like choose one in this industry. For leftover stamps, are you pricing the client for the exact amount of stamps needed and you pay out of pocket for the leftovers? It is not a dumb question. We do upcharge a little bit, so it covers our full postage order and shipping. So basically, the client does cover that cost, but there's no point. It doesn't make sense to a client for us to give her more stamps than she's ordered. The only time I've ever done that, she was like, but why don't I have invitations to go with these stamps?
I see.
Well, because you only ordered 130 invitations.
Yeah. So, like, if she did pay for, like, we have a client right now who paid for 130, I think, but her list only has, like, 120 or whatever it is. So she's going to get 10 extra invitations and 10 extra stamps because she paid for those.
Yes. So they get everything they paid for in their order.
Yeah.
But on the back end, we also cover our cost for those additional 10 stamps because we have to order it in sheets of 20.
And this is, we're specifically talking about custom stamps because there is like a little bit of markup because like that is like our design on it as well. Like it's not just like the exact cost. If it's the USPS stamps, I think we charge them only just
we do exact cost
of what it is because that costs us nothing. To like, or I mean, you know, the trip to the post office, but like whatever.
Which is next door to her building.
Yeah, that's literally baked into the job.
Yeah, it's baked into it. So that's not a dumb question at all. Angeli, thank you for asking. Sierra, I love it when you're here.
You talk a lot. It's great.
Nice and chatty. It's like having an actual conversation with someone. There's been a lot of talk lately on the WSC group
with some cats.
Must be us. I'm ready to WSC is. About upcharging printing materials. When you outsource printing, letterpress, or foil, do you charge in what % range? I know you don't for things like handmade paper, but silk ribbon because it's already pricey. But some people don't upcharge, some do 40%, and some multiply the cost by 2 or 3 times. It seems like a huge range. No, that is not too many questions at all. I like your questions. Oh, right, the one I just mentioned like 2 seconds ago. I was like, I know I shouldn't know this acronym. It depends on how you present your pricing to your client. The way we do our pricing, and we've talked about this in multiple courses, both pricing courses for sure. The way we do our pricing is we essentially do markup printing quite a bit in-house and outsourced. But because of how we structure our pricing, it's not that clear. So there's a couple different ways you can present pricing to your client. You can say, here's my design fee of $1,500. Here is the cost of the paper. Here's the cost of the printing. Here's your total. The reason I don't like doing that is it's too easy for the client to check on your markups. I never want to put myself in a situation where the client says, oh, it's $800 for printing. I can get it at this guy over here for $200. No, that's not how this works. Like, you're paying my printer because I have a relationship with him. Is he the cheapest? No. Do I mark it up? Absolutely. I usually go for a 3 times markup. It's kind of like what I aim for in my head, especially when I'm printing at home. But again, it also is not how I present my work. So we do bulk pricing. We do, here's an invitation. It's going to cost you $1,700 for the invitation alone. But this is what it includes, $1,700 for Just the invitation is your envelope, which is lined with a return address, with the invitation. Yeah, that's what it is. And paper. So it's paper, printing, assembly, envelope, return address is all in how I price my invitation. And then there's a reply card, which is reply, the card, the printing, the paper, the envelope, and the address. Then there's the insert card, which is this much for the insert card and all the artwork. So it's how I present my pricing to my client because it's less likely to be questioned. I never want to have to explain to my client why I price things the way I do, other than the fact that I'm just awesome. I don't want to have to justify it ever. How much you mark up, I think, is far more to do with what your market can handle than anything else. If you're doing foil printing, which is already expensive, and you have $2,500 in foil printing, that's going to be hard to mark up to $6,000. Your client's going to be like, no. Mm-hmm. So in your pricing, you have to make sure that you're compensating for your time and your design fee, but you may not be making a ton on that printing. You know, like we know, when we print flat print on Rossi paper, we make the most money because we print in-house and Rossi's not expensive. Now, if we're doing foil on ARPA,
we save time not having to spray mount.
Yep.
And cut paper. And
there's no cutting, no spray mount. We're not printing backers, so front and back. Yeah. We're only printing one side.
It feeds well in the printer. Like overall, just saves in all aspects. Yeah.
Yeah. So we love printing on Rossi because it's fast, cheap, efficient, and a huge profit margin for us. If we're doing foil on ARPA,
better than printing on ARPA.
Better than printing on ARPA, because ARPA's a bitch to work with. It's also insanely expensive, comparatively speaking. ARPA is one of the most expensive papers you can print on, except maybe Farmet. Farmet paper is pretty expensive too. It's not as expensive as ARPA. But I'm also going to lead my client away from that. I don't like working with it. I hate writing on the envelopes. Printing is really incredibly difficult on it. You're limited to letterpress and foil. I'm not running ARPA through my printer. I'm just not going to do it. So if they want foil on handmade paper, sure, we can go with ARPA, but I bet I can find a cheaper way of doing it. Like, what is it about the ARPA that they like? Do they like ARPA or do I like ARPA? You know, I'm not going to sell myself or sell. But I like it. As a designer, as an artist, it's something I like. And they tell a difference? No. Then why on earth would I sell them on ARPA when I make far less money doing it? So, yeah, make good decisions. I'm sorry, my nose is so itchy. I'm going over to scratch my nose. Oh, I have not taken my allergy stuff today. Right now, I only have a markup of 15 to 20%. After hearing others talk about it, I think it's a bit low, but I also charge a decent design fee. Sierra, I think it's more about where you fall in the market as a total, not as a markup. Yeah, personally. I mean, our markups has a huge range. It's not even remotely close to being consistent. It's also because we don't price out every project. We go off a pricing sheet so that I can turn around a quote in like 5 minutes flat. I don't have to reach out to my printers. I know exactly how much things cost. I know where my biggest profit margins are, and I know that I'm going to push the biggest profit margins, not the ones with the lowest profit margin. Why would I do that? Sierra, what's the WSC? That's the Wedding Stationery Collective, is a Facebook group that I'll stalk once in a while. I don't usually jump in because so many people jump in on questions and stuff that I feel like my expertise is not needed at all. It's also not really my market as far as other stationers go. So a lot of things that I have to say in there is like, it's more prep school stuff. It's more for people who want to take their business super seriously. And a lot of times people are asking questions that they just want an answer, not an explanation. And I only give explanations. But Wedding Stationery Collective is a pretty good group. They're not super bitchy, which I really appreciate. There's a ton of information. But if you're going to join the Wedding Stationery Collective and you have a question, please search the chat board first.
Plus, there's got to be so much information on there by now.
So much information
built up over time.
Yeah, it's a pretty good group. Sierra, I kind of play by ear too with clients. Yeah, it depends on what your client can take. So if you know your client has a budget of $3,500 and your design fee is $1,500, you know you can upsell them on printing or paper or assembly stuff. But you also know, you should know in theory what your profit margins are and where you can afford to mark up and where it's going to put them over their budget by so much that they're just not going to book with you. So a lot of it is learning to play it by ear. Sierra says, I need to do that, Cami. I want to redo my pricing, which seems to happen every 6 months. When you guys are first starting out and you're getting a lot of business under your belt and you're really curating your aesthetic and building your repertoire, you will find that your pricing is going to change a lot.
And I think like figuring out your market, like what you're saying, like where you are in the market.
Yeah, figure out where you fall in the market is really important. And the more you hone that, the more specific your pricing is going to be and the more up to date your pricing will need to be. Because if you're undercutting yourself and you're giving a much better product than you're selling, you're going to have a hard time upping your pricing later. It's better to up your pricing as you go than to do it in a big chunk. You're going to have a hard time switching markets where if it's gradual, it won't seem as drastic to people, and you'll kind of have the backing to match your bark. Like your bark and your bite will match. If your pricing is super high, or let's start low. If your pricing is super low but your work is here, this gap doesn't translate well to clients. They're going to wonder why you're so cheap. But if it's the other way around, you're not going to get any booking because your work doesn't match your pricing. So it's good to get those to match, but as a nice gradual thing, because the market that this falls within is going to change. And if you're trying to jump market brackets in one fell swoop, you're going to have a hard time doing it, because right now there's a certain market that's aware of your existence. So trying to get a new market that's aware of your existence without a transition can be difficult. Sina. How do you balance pricing by ear versus emotional pricing? That's a good question. I have the bad habit of emotional pricing, as in feeling bad and undercutting myself. Totally bit me in the ass with the Pinterest happy bride. It happens. Georgia, every new client brings a new contract clause you want to add. Oh yeah, my clauses are like named by client. But yes, after a while, your contract is so extensive that you do have to be careful not to add so many clauses that you just seem like a crazy person. But after a while, you get to the point where you anticipate a lot of the issues, that your contract is ironclad. You're not pricing emotionally. You're not dealing with them emotionally. You're dealing with them as a professional, and you will have fewer problem clients. Also, take the no such thing as bad client course. Okay, Sina, how do you get in the habit, or how do you get out of the habit of pricing emotionally? Pricing emotionally, which basically, if you're not familiar with the concept, is when, as an artist, and the things that we produce are like our children, they're our babies, they're the things we love and care about the most, and we just want other people to love them. So when someone comes to us and they're like, I would like you to design my wedding invitations, you're like, I'd love to. My prices are $1,500 or $1,000, whatever you can pay. Please book me. Please buy my things. Please love my things. And yes, I know that was probably a little patronizing. Sorry. But I've been there too. So in hindsight, I look back and I was like, wow, I looked so pathetic. Clients are like dogs that sense fear. They sense desperation. And pricing emotionally comes across as desperation to a client. It also can come across as, ooh, this is somebody I can take advantage of, which is a really, really bad type of client to end up with. Because then you end up getting walked all over and taken advantage of, pricing-wise, time-wise, every other way you can think of. Those are also the clients that you're going to have the most trouble with. They're the ones that are going to look for somebody to blame if anything goes wrong. And it could be a perceived slight. It doesn't even have to be an actual something that went wrong, and they will look to blame you for it because they know they can. Pricing emotionally is like that scarcity mindset that we talked about in pricing 1. It is way more destructive in the long term than in the short term, because clients talk. So the more you price emotionally and the more you undercut yourself, the more people you're going to have that expect you to price that way. and expect to be able to take advantage of you that way. So if you have a client that you've priced emotionally with that has then changed your mind 10 times, but you've accommodated because you just want them to love their invitation, you just want them to love your work, and then because she wasn't super, super happy with the final product, or, you know, she really thought the printing was going to be brighter, and she's kind of disappointed. So you give her a discount on the printing, and, you know, they got out a few days later because ultimately it's that she couldn't make up her mind, but because you didn't put boundaries in place, you know, those invitations got out a little bit late, which is of course your fault. So you give her a discount on that. Well, when she goes to her girlfriend, she's like, oh, so-and-so designed my invitations. I also got a discount for this, and I got a discount for this, and I got a discount for this. People talk, and that next client will come to you expecting all those same things. So pricing emotionally is super, super dangerous for your long-term benefits and business goals. How to not price emotionally is don't price by year either. Make yourself a pricing chart. Know exactly how much everything costs. So when I first started doing pricing for quotes, what I had done was I went through in a spreadsheet and broke down my per piece of paper cost for the main papers I used. So say you're just using Crane's cardstock. You can't see the kitty jumping on her, it's super cute. So say you're using Crane. Okay, well, Crane per sheet, and if you're printing 2 up, is 65 cents a sheet. I'm guessing, I'm not super sure. But you're going to duplex it, so it's 65 times 2. Plus reply card is 3 up, so 65 divided. I'm so not going to do math in my head. That's a really bad idea.
Don't make her do math.
Don't make me do math. But do the pricing so you know if you have somebody that comes to you and wants duplexed, letra, invitation, reply card, insert, envelope, you go 65, 45, 65, 65, 65, 65, you add it up and times it by 3. There's your paper cost. Your printing is going to be flat print, and you do that all the time, so that's easy. You know it's going to be $1.50 per suite, $1.50 times your quantity. Then your design fee is $1,100. You take $1,100, you add it with your printing, and you add it with your paper. That's your cost that you present to your client. Break it down so that it's not emotional. It's just numbers. It's just paper. You have to take the emotion out of it, and it's more of a discipline thing than anything else. But to make it easier for yourself, make a pricing chart. You don't have to do every variable on the face of the freaking sun. Do what you use most often. If you use just white cardstock, price it at white cardstock. Know exactly how much each sheet of cardstock is going to cost you, how many up you print, like how many per page you can fit, and price it that way. So when you have a client come to you, you can add it up super fast. You add that plus your printing fee, plus your design fee, and you're done. That's a really good way of taking emotions out of it, is make it a non-emotional process. It's not, oh, but they're paying for this wedding themselves.
That's nice.
That's nice. You know, do you walk into an attorney's office and you're like, hey, I need to put a will together, but my husband and I are paying for this ourselves? Like a lawyer would be like, and? What's your point? Oh, you know, my husband and I are pregnant, but for all the medical bills, we're paying for this ourselves. The doctor's like, yeah, in insurance, and? Get out of my coffee, you little bugger.
Whoever's on the desk.
Hi, honey. Can you please stop trying to drink all my things?
Trade laps.
Lap trader. She's really sure Karen is not mom. She's just food provider. Meow, food provider. Meow, food provider.
Oh, you're still here. Okay.
Just making sure. Oh my God, what would I do if you left? I'd have no food. Let's see. Sierra. Oh, pricing course was great for that. Thank you. They can do the invites themselves. I like it. Catherine says she's so glad we got both kitties. Where is Dinah? Oh, she's sleeping. I had to put a bell on Dinah because the apartment is big enough that I kept losing her. We lost Clover yesterday.
Yeah.
Like hardcore lost Clover.
So Clover wants to talk to you guys.
She's
Typing.
typing.
Oh.
They're super helpful. Earlier, she tried to print 55 things. Okay, we're going to do one more question and then talk real briefly about semester 5, and then we're going to wrap it up. She's killing me, Clover. Screen's like flipping all the different apps all around. I liked this question. If we had a podcast, so someone was like, oh, you guys should do a podcast. If we had a podcast, would you guys listen to it? Yeah. Clover says yes. Clover will listen to
Clover
it.
is over here now. They're sitting close enough that she can like just hop around different islands.
So yeah, what do you guys think about doing a podcast? I was kind of thinking about changing or taking kind of the ideas that we used to talk about a lot on Periscope.
Yeah, because basically we don't have the Periscope platform anymore.
Yeah, Periscope kind of went meow. However, I have on good authority, Instagram is working into filling that void. Now I'm too high for you to jump chairs. I want you to fall down. So we were thinking about doing a podcast instead. I've been thinking about doing a podcast now for like 3 years and just haven't gotten around to it. Like everything else. I mean, as artists, as business owners, I think we all do this where we need to redo our own website. It's like the last thing that gets done because the stuff that we can put off for client work is our own stuff. So podcast is one of those. I've been saying I'm going to do a podcast for years. So, okay, we've got a lot of yeses there. Yeah, podcast. I would like the podcast to be not only with Karen and I, but with other creatives and talking about the struggles we have, issues we see in the industry, just thoughts we have on. We both saw that. There's a cat in the toy box, the dog toy box.
I think she's gonna come.
And now there's a dog in the dog. Oh, there's a cat in the dog food bowl.
She is.
There's dry food in the bathroom on the shelf above them. If you want to just pick it up and put it down.
Okay.
I was hiding it from Monday because Monday's a cat food eater. Anyway, so podcast would not just be Karen and I. We're looking at bringing in other creatives. Some obvious ones, obviously Jenny and Ashley, since I talk to them all the time anyway. But talking about things we see in the industry, good, bad, and indifferent. So new projects we've got coming up, et cetera, et cetera. Also, how many people here are graphic designers, stationers, not calligraphers? Raise your hand. And there's like a 30-second lag here. Oh, have some coffee. You guys know this is my favorite cup. This is the cup I stole when I was in Paris. Okay, Sierra. Dream of mine too. Probably never going to happen, but I'd love to hear one from you. Well, Sierra, you could just be a guest on our podcast. Maria, I really want a podcast that talks about the struggles with vendors in the wedding industry face and the solutions behind them. Yep, that's definitely what we want to be talking about, is bringing in other creatives, other creative women, other professional creative women to talk about things we see in not just the wedding industry, but across the creative industry in general. There are a few great creative podcasts, but it would be so great to have a specific one to our field. I agree. Okay, so I asked if we have any stationers who are not calligraphers. So I'm going to bring you guys in on a little something fun that we're working on. This one we're actually going to do.
Wait, what are we doing about?
Goals that we've had for a really long time we're finally doing something about.
Oh, okay.
Why would I be asking if people are stationers and not calligraphers?
I have no idea. Let us know.
I'm going to let you know right now. I love Sean West, by the way. Sean West is awesome.
Sean West has a way better hair.
Okay, I listened to Sean West for like a year before I ever saw a picture of him. And when I saw a picture of him, I was like, no! He's got like long, scraggly hair.
You don't like his hair?
There you go, Georgia's got it. Yes. We are designing a font right now, and the reason I didn't do this years and years ago when Jenny and I were working together was we both had really distinctive calligraphy styles, and I did not want to make my very distinctive calligraphy style into a font, and then everybody would just use that instead of paying me. Seems logical. But now I don't have a distinctive font at all. So we are designing a font specifically, a calligraphy style specifically for font design. It's going to be a hopefully fairly well-designed font. We're doing a ton of research on repeated letters and connections and ends and double letters and all that stuff, so that it's not only a calligraphic font, but it has some really nice variety to it, so it looks more like calligraphy than a font itself. So we are working on that, which is super exciting. I'm really excited about it. Are you excited?
No, not at all.
She's not.
I'm just kidding. I'm very excited. I have been doing a lot of the research work.
Yep. The reason why I'm suddenly gung-ho on this whole font thing is because Karen. Hey, I did a lot of the writing.
It's true. You did do a lot of
all the writing.
You did all.
I did all the writing. Writing is done. The alphabet is done. And guess who's going to be cleaning it up in Photoshop?
Well, actually, in the font file. I think
You'll be doing the font file. I'll be doing the Photoshop.
Well, I don't think we need to. We'll talk about this later.
We'll talk about this later. Okay, so I want to go over semester 5 real quick just to get some feedback from you guys. I know you guys, Sean West's hair, like Google picture Sean West.
Oh, poor Sean West. This has turned into a Sean West roast.
It kind of has. I mean, what's funny about Sean West is he would absolutely get in on this. I love it. Like he's absolutely freaking brilliant. I love everything he touches. Everything he has to say is awesome and it's gold, but his hair is really bad. I will show you a picture. Okay, so for semester 5, I've got a whole list of things. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Too many. Wait, no, don't do what, Becky? Anyway, yes, Sarah took his lettering course. He's awesome. He started as a letterer. Now he's more like a business consultant. Anyway, oh, don't Google his hair. It's like he is nothing close to what I thought he was going to look like. Google. George says Google Sean West right now. Yeah, I want to see Karen's reaction. I really need to go take an allergy medicine. I'm dying. Or Googling Sean West.
What do I?
Just look at no. Look at images. I mean, his
Is he like only Sean West?
No,
Oh, I've seen him before.
Famous. And he's like super young and super scraggly looking.
Yeah, I've seen his lettering.
Yeah, his lettering
back when I was. He's the one that does the note taking. Yeah, like this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like note taking and stuff.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, someone's at the door.
Someone's at the door.
Okay, you keep working.
Okay. So I assume that's one of my neighbors. I don't know, we have a lot to film. Yeah, we're gonna wrap up soon anyway. This is a super long one. So for semester 5, we're looking at doing approval seeking. These are our top ones right now. Approval seeking and how that affects the art community and what we do and how we structure our business through social media, through friends and family, just kind of the vacuum we end up putting ourselves in and how much pressure that generates in seeking approval for our work. We're looking at doing a course in fluid art. I don't know what's going on. Okay. Fluid art, beginning bookkeeping. We're having somebody in the industry who has been in our industry specifically, who also has a degree in accounting and has been doing bookkeeping for Creatives for long period of time, but not for a while. Anyway, long story short, I'm thinking about doing intro to bookkeeping, and we'll probably have more than one course with her coming up. That'll be announced when it's a little bit more official. Instagram styling. So we did intro to Instagram last semester, but we want to follow it up with a little bit more hardcore of a flat lay styling course. Color adjustments for print is the big one. Oh, it's Clover's meowing. Food giver, come back! Color adjustments for print, which has been the biggest question we've been getting lately. Sierra, what did he do to his hair? She says Sean West's hair was curly recently. That's terrifying. Ooh, he's got weird hair. I want to give him a haircut. But he's super, super nice guy. Clover! She's like freaked out that. Anyway, so that's kind of what we have coming up for semester 5. Some of the other ones that we're considering is a follow-up to our watercolor and calligraphy. Fabric marbling. I just took a fabric marbling course through Natalie. Hold on, let me look her up so I remember her last name. Natalie. Yeah, Stopka. I was close. Natalie Stopka. Natalie Stopka is an incredibly accomplished paper arts person who's up in New York. She does indigo, natural dyeing, marbling, doesn't do a whole lot in the wedding industry, but is so incredibly talented, and her color theory is amazing. So I'm trying to recruit her to come and teach a fabric marbling or paper marbling course for us, depending upon what she wants to do. So that's a possibility. We're thinking about possibly bringing on Paige again and doing another legal course, probably on getting into contracts a little bit more. And let's see what else we have. Networking and layout. So networking is just, intro to networking, how to talk to other people in groups and how to build relationships with other vendors. Layout is creating interesting layouts digitally. Georgia, please get into fabric marbling. I figured you guys would like that. So I can definitely teach an intro class. I've been doing Italian marbling for long enough now, and I've done both fabric and paper, but I would like to do the marbling course with multiple levels long term. And Natalie would definitely be the one to be doing that. She is freaking awesome. And she has far more experience. So it should be a great one to bring on. If you guys want to follow her, let me type in her name here real quick, and you guys can go check her out. Stopka, I believe. Stopka. Yep. Natalie Stopka for marbling. Go Insta stalk her and be like, you should come to a class at Design House Prep School. I did tell her about it, so she knows I'm going to be, she and I are in the process of chatting. But yeah, having some of you guys be like, we want you to teach us would be awesome. So that's kind of what we're looking at for semester 5. Anything that we don't get to in semester 5 will just get bumped to semester 6. But those are kind of the front runners right now. Approval seeking. We'll probably do fluid art or marbling. Probably won't do both. Beginning bookkeeping, styling, and color adjustments. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it's like 5, maybe 6 with bringing Paige in front of the course. So we will let you guys know when that lineup has been finalized. Anything that you guys really, really, really want to see over others of that list, let me know, and we'll make sure that that gets on the list. All right, so we're going to wrap it up here. I'm going to go see what on earth is going on downstairs. It sounded like a delivery of some kind, but I don't know what it could be. And Clover is screaming her head off, so I'm going to go cat rescue. She probably got stuck in the litter box again. Anyway, it's good to see everybody. This was a super long chat today, but I think we had such a great conversation. So I hope that you guys got a lot out of it. If you ever have questions, shoot us an email, because we keep them and we store them so we can come back and answer them later on Q&As. We will have an open Q&A coming up. We're going to do it with an open link and announce it, so it's going to be more of a public forum, kind of how Periscope used to be. So we're going to have that coming up as well. I have no idea what's going on back here. Bookkeeping, color adjustments, please. Definitely. Okay. Carolyn, thank you for that. I agree with both of those, bookkeeping and the color adjustments, and the marbling are kind of like my favorite ones this semester. So anyway, we will see you guys later, and we'll announce our upcoming course. I'd love all of you guys to join us when we do the public one as well for chats and conversations. I love the conversations that we generate here. Thanks, Sierra, for so many of the awesome freaking questions. I will see you guys later.
Dog is a roadblock.
Yes, my dog is a roadblock.
I can't get your under my bed.
All right. Oh, is that what it is?
I don't know. It says onion table white.
Yeah. It's my new lamp. My replacement
Well,
lamp.
Monday is road blocking. So.
It's my consolation lamp. All right. We will see you guys later.
Bye.
She's been screaming her head off.
Oh.